Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop. All the news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's the host.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Alpha Woolen, and I am your host this evening for Inside Scoop. Tonight, we have with us a very special guest here from Northern Virginia. We have with us Supervisor Margaret Franklin, who represents the Woodbridge District in Prince William County. Supervisor Franklin, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Sure. So we said before that you've been on the show before, but it was so long ago. So
Yes.
I'm going to say, like my favorite artist, Jay-Z, allow you to reintroduce yourself.
That's right. That's right.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm happy to be back to talk about the work that I've been doing in Woodbridge over the past several years. So thank you again.
Of course. So what made you get into, before we get into your work and what you're doing for Prince William County and specifically the Woodbridge District, what made you get into the political space?
Yeah, I mean, I saw a need in my community down in Prince William County. I've always been interested in government and politics, but I ran for office because I saw that there were things around my community that needed to be addressed. And quite frankly, I realized also that even though we were a diverse community, there were not very many people that looked like me sitting at the table. So ran for office for the Board of Supervisors and was able to win in a primary. And then I've been serving there for the past 5 years. So it's been an honor to serve the Woodbridge District.
Was there any moment in your life that made you say, let me look in that direction? Like, for example, for me, I didn't know it at the time, but my favorite uncle would listen to Public Enemy in his car. Fight the Power. It was my first hip hop song that I loved. And I was just like, why is this song resonating with me so much? And now I know why, because of my heart for policy.
Yeah.
So was there anything for you growing up
Yeah, I just knew that there was always a penchant to pay attention to what was going on in the community. I've always kind of paid attention to politics. And, I had family members that were involved in politics, and so it's always been something that's on my mind. But running for office, I mean, again, it was that spark, like I'm looking around, there's no one that looks like me. And also, I'm seeing some challenges in my community that haven't been addressed for decades. So, I can't say there was one thing over another, but certainly I kind of grew up in a family that always paid attention to what was going on around their neighborhood.
Wow. Okay, so let's go ahead and just get into the work that you are doing in Prince William County, specifically the Woodbridge District. So I know I've done some digging on you, and so I know one thing that's really, really important to you is affordable housing.
Yes.
So first, let's talk about why that particular policy issue. Is it something that you experienced growing up, or you just saw that as a real need for the Woodbridge District? Yeah,
well, it's interesting. There's a need both for the Woodbridge District as well as Northern Virginia and really the DMV area, and also nationally. But what's interesting about your question, if I saw it growing up, my father actually worked at the Memphis Housing Authority as a social worker for about 20 years. And so, I can't say that before then it was ever kind of a big topic for me, but once he started working there, I kind of understood the importance of various HUD programs, various home ownership programs, and things of that nature. And then when I got involved on the Board of Supervisors, kind of realized that the cost of living is so expensive, and the one thing that everyone has in common is that we all need a place to live. And so the question is, can you find an affordable and decent place to live? And I realized that was getting out of grasp for a lot of people in this area, particularly for young people, particularly for those under the poverty rate. And so I started to lead the charge to help create more affordable housing in this region, and that's important to me.
Sure. I read something recently where it said if you want to live in Northern Virginia, you have to make, I don't think it's individually, but a household has to bring in at least $131,000 per year to live, to be able to afford a home in Northern Virginia.
That's right.
How many people Yeah.
That's, and the incredible thing about that is when I first moved to Northern Virginia in 2011, I moved down here because it was nicer and it was cheaper than certainly Washington, D.C. It was a bit nicer than some parts of Maryland that I was looking at, and still Maryland was a little bit more expensive. So when I came down here, it was very much so cheap. And it was still nice, but that was in 2011. Since then, it has become way more expensive, and I find it important to make sure that we can open up additional avenues for people to be able to afford to still live here.
So what were some of those initiatives that you started?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, COVID happened right after I was sworn in. And so obviously there were a lot of people struggling to figure out, okay, if I can't go to work and make money, how am I going to afford to pay rent? How am I going to afford to pay my mortgage? So I led the effort to create a housing assistance program to help those with mortgage, utility, and rental assistance. Wow. So that was one of the first initiatives that we pushed forward to help those in the county. And we use federal funds to help us do it. And for those that had other challenges, we worked with other organizations as well to help be able to provide those resources. So it was a very successful program. I'm looking at making another program similar but more permanent outside of COVID. And so that was the first initiatives that we pushed forward. And then I also pushed to create a housing trust fund to help with developing more affordable housing in this region. And then also I pushed to create an affordable housing ordinance, the first of its kind in Prince William County, and we're actually going to vote on that in June. So we've done a lot in this area over the past 5 years, and it is so necessary just because this region has become so much more expensive.
Let's park there. Let's back up a little bit. Okay. So I want to dig a little bit deeper into the trust fund. Yeah. What are the components of that?
Sure. Yeah, it's a great question. So the trust fund that we're creating is actually going to be a fund where we incentivize developers to put money into this fund so that we can kind of cut into that to develop more affordable housing options in the private sector. What we also want to do is make sure that the state is supporting us in creating dollars for this fund, which they have. Our General Assembly has been very generous in making sure that we have funding to start off the program. And then the county has also put about $10 million into the program as well. So again, it's something that we find very important. And we hope that this fund will use to start developing more affordable housing options across the county.
So you mentioned the cooperation with the General Assembly, which is very, very important.
Absolutely.
But what are your thoughts on current Governor Youngkin vetoing a number of affordable housing initiatives?
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but that's also why, as a locality, we have to do what we can on our own to make sure that we're propping up some of these initiatives. It would be great if the governor could support more affordable housing initiatives to help localities create these housing stocks, because that's part of the challenge. We don't have enough housing, period, which cuts into the affordability discussion. And so, we as a locality say we're going to stand up on our own and we're going to do what we know is right, and we're going to put these tools into place to help create more affordable housing. But we're going to continue to push the governor and the General Assembly to help us out on the local level to create these housing.
That's really encouraging to hear that you've had help, or the locality has had help from delegates and senators within the Virginia General Assembly. So that's really important.
That's right. Yeah.
Can you talk a bit more about? So we talked about the trust fund, the housing ordinance. You said it's the first of its kind. Describe that to us.
Yeah, yep, the first of its kind in Prince William County. We've been talking about affordable housing for years now, even before I got on the Board of Supervisors, and now we're finally actually doing something about it. So the Housing Trust Fund actually goes hand in hand with the Affordable Housing Ordinance. And so this ordinance is basically going to kind of outline what is affordable housing in this region, how should we create affordable housing throughout the region, what areas need more affordable options, how do we create affordable options in both the rental market as well as the private market. And then also, how do we utilize federal funding, or the lack thereof, to make sure that we're utilizing all types of resources at every level of government to create this. So the Affordable Housing Ordinance is going to be a one-stop shop for us to lean on creating those tools and resources.
And so is this essentially codifying what affordable housing should look like in Prince William County?
That's exactly right. That's exactly
tremendous.
right. Yeah, and it's the first time we're doing it here. We're actually putting money behind the initiative, and we are, putting our money where our mouth is. We say it's important, and we're actually going to create the resources to do it.
Absolutely. So my parents are aging, and I often am concerned about their housing stability. I'm grateful that they're still healthy and they're still working, but it would be comforting to know that they could afford to have a home in Prince William County, their permanent home. So
that's right, and aging in place is so important. We have a lot of developers who we've pushed to create age-restricted housing as well. And so it's important to make sure that we have enough housing at every level of the housing ecosystem.
Absolutely. And so are there any initiatives? I think it's important. I think what you're doing is very important, and the other supervisors for Prince William County, but there's also a public education component. What are you all doing to ensure that folks know what you all are doing and how they can participate in this process?
Yeah, great question, because we definitely want to make sure that our residents and constituents understand the program. We haven't passed it yet, but we're having public hearings. I'm actually hosting an affordable housing roundtable on April 23rd at 7 p.m. at the Ferlazzo building. So individuals can come out and hear about the ordinance kind of in greater detail. But we plan to make sure that we're pushing informationals out. We're planning to do some editorials and things of that nature to make sure that people really understand what their options are to get more affordable housing options in the county.
I think affordable housing is common sense, right? It's common sense policy, common sense legislation, but I imagine, or I'm asking, have you had any pushback?
Well, a lot of people assume when you're talking about affordable housing that you're talking about Section 8 and that you're talking about housing that won't be kept up or won't be as nice. But the reality is a lot of affordable housing is also meant for your public safety officers, your teachers, your young professionals who are just starting out in their careers. So we've targeted a lot of our resources towards those individuals. But low-income individuals are just as important as well, and we're going to focus there as also.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for everything that you've mentioned to us about affordable housing. Don't go anywhere as we continue our conversation with Supervisor Margaret Franklin, who is the representative for the Woodbridge District in Prince William County. We'll see you in about 90 seconds.
Every day across America, excess food is gathered by a network of good people at local food banks, giving hope to millions of children who struggle with hunger. They've earned their wings, and you can too. Together, we can solve child hunger. Support Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
Hi, I'm Josh Temple. You might have seen me on TV where I help folks turn their houses into dream homes. But forget construction. Parenting is the toughest job there is. So when you need help or advice, turn to the parenting experts at Boys Town.
I was afraid of that.
Well, guess it's time to get you fixed.
Your pets will start fooling around sooner than you think.
Go on, get out of here!
Accidental litters lead to millions killed in shelters each year. Help prevent more. Fix at month 4.
Food. It nourishes, brings us together, and adds flavor to life. That's why it's important to wash hands, surfaces, and fresh produce. Keep raw meat, poultry, and seafood separate from ready-to-eat foods like fruits and vegetables. and cook to proper temperatures using a food thermometer. Enjoy, and refrigerate leftovers within 2 hours. For more tips on safely preparing foods, visit homefoodsafety.org.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Thank you so much for joining us back here on the Inside Scoop. I am Alpha Woolen, your host for this evening, and we are going to continue our conversation with the Supervisor Margaret Franklin, who represents the Woodbridge District in Prince William County. So Supervisor Franklin, when we left off, we were talking about the importance of affordable housing and what you and the other supervisors on the board for Prince William County are doing to help kind of help the situation when it comes to affordable housing. But I don't think we can really talk about the progress in Prince William County and Northern Virginia without addressing what's happening at the federal level.
Sure. Yeah.
So what are some initiatives or maybe your thoughts or some concerns that you're hearing from your constituents that are affected by the current Trump administration policies?
Yeah, I mean, we're getting phone calls, emails. We're hearing a lot of concerns. And so the way we're looking to address those concerns, which includes Social Security, it does include housing, assistance, other federal funding, SNAP, education. And so I know that the county hosted a career fair because, listen, if the federal government doesn't want qualified individuals, the county certainly does. And so we hosted a career fair this past Saturday. We also put up some resources and a link on our website about various opportunities here in the county as well. And I know that I hosted a town hall with Congressman Eugene Vindman to talk about Social Security and Medicare, particularly with our senior citizen population. So a lot of the concerns we heard there was, there are already, challenges with the system before, and now it's going to be even more complicated. How can we guarantee that we're still getting the resources that we paid into our entire adult life? And so those are the things that we're hearing from our constituents, and we're doing the best we can to address them with what authority we have locally, but it's tough.
One thing I'm hearing from federal workers, residents are very grateful for Fairfax County, Prince William County, other localities saying, hey, there are jobs here. But is it really a one-to-one match? If someone was a biochemist for NIH, is it realistic? And let's just say they were making, I don't know, $185 per year. Is it realistic for them to be able to find a comparable opportunity with their county?
Yeah, that's the challenge with what we're seeing with the federal workforce, and that's why it's so irresponsible as to what's going on. I know qualified individuals who have been riffed from the federal government, and they're looking at county resources, and it's not going to be always a one-to-one match. You may be lucky if you find that one-to-one, but what we're telling individuals is, look, if you want to work, we will find something that makes the most sense, that's beneficial to you and the county, but we're also pushing back on what we're seeing in terms of the layoffs and saying that, listen, we need to make sure that our national defense and our national security is taken care of. We need to make sure that our education systems have the resources they need. Again, we talked about housing assistance, Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. All of those things and more are critically important. And what we're seeing at the federal level is incredibly concerning. And we're going to do the best we can on the state and local level to kind of be the backbone to take care of those individuals. But it is going to be tough because we don't have all the resources we need, which is why we have to rely on the federal government.
Yeah, I know that Prince William County, I don't know the district by heart, but I know that Quantico, obviously, is located in Prince William County. Have you noticed any, or have you heard any concerns from our military employees or military personnel being affected by federal policies?
Yeah, I think there is a lot of concern about, how are we handling defense spending? How are we going to handle, again, national security and issues of homeland security? And particularly with our veteran population, those that are not active duty members, there's a lot of concern about what's happening at the VA. How will that impact their health care? And how will that impact other resources that our veterans need? So that's more so what we're hearing in terms of what does the county or the state have in terms of resources that we may be cut off from the VA and the federal government. So it is a challenge, and we are again going to have to figure out how can we pick up the slack from the federal government, and I'm not even sure that we are or we can even really prepare for that because it's so quickly happening, and we have to figure it out for our residents pretty much now.
With your town hall with Congressman Benjamin, what were some other concerns that you all heard expressed?
Sure, yeah, concerns about, again, Medicare, concerns about Medicaid, Social Security, what's going to happen with regards to benefits. How can we guarantee that we'll still get the benefits that we've been getting? They're hearing concerns that a lot of the systems will now be automated. Well, a lot of those in our aging population don't want to rely solely on the internet or a computer or a laptop for their services. Sometimes they need to talk to an actual individual. So they're very concerned about what they're hearing on the news. They don't know what's true and what's not. And quite frankly, it's hard for myself and even Congressman Vindman to say what's true and what's not, because the administration is changing its mind so much on some of these issues. One day the policy is this, and then it changes the very next day once they get pushback. So it's even hard for us to keep up with what we need to tell our constituents.
Sure. I imagine that you mentioned a specific demographic, the aging population. There might be folks that have access to a phone or the internet, but that doesn't mean that that's conducive for them to get information. That raises the question of equity up. Absolutely. So as you're writing legislation or as you're talking to other supervisors on the board, how do you all address the changing needs within the equity space?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, because there are challenges with equity in all types of demographics, whether it's a minority or ethnic demographic, age demographics, even with regards to experience and background. We want to make sure that as diverse as our county is, we're the 10th most diverse county in the entire country. Wow. As diverse as it is, we need to make sure that our policies actually match our diversity efforts. And so what that looks like is making sure that we have policies in place that can take care of each individual no matter where they are in life, making sure that our policies can actually meet our residents where they are. So for instance, this affordable housing ordinance, we don't just want to create affordable housing, but we also need to create other types of housing as well. So maybe you want to get into the rental market, or maybe you want to, as a young professional, purchase your first townhouse, but at some point you grow your family and now maybe you want a single family home. Yeah. Maybe at some point you have a really large family, you need to move into a bigger home. So we want diversity in housing as well. And I can give example after example about how equity and our policies are going to be key. Education is another big source. Have a very diverse student population. So making sure that the school system has the resources they need from us as well as the state to make sure that the programs are actually meeting each demographic of student where they are.
Sure. I want to go a bit off topic a bit.
Yeah.
You mentioned, but not really, you mentioned how diverse Prince William County is. Have you heard any concerns around current immigration policies, ICE raids?
Yeah.
Have you heard any concerns around that, and what are the the Board of Supervisors, what are you all doing to address that? Any research, any partnerships?
Sure. Yeah, I definitely heard concerns about it. I have one of the largest immigrant populations in the county. And when this policy from the federal government went into place, I had a meeting with our immigration advocates as well as with others alongside our police chief for him to explain to them directly kind of what our policies are and how they plan to handle some of these circumstances. And that was for a couple of reasons. A, to make sure that they are educated on what the actual policies are, because again, it's been so chaotic on the federal level. But then also B, making sure that there was a level of trust that was being built between the police department and our immigration communities, and making sure that they understood who to call if there was a challenge. And since that meeting, I've gotten several calls about various rumors in the community. We heard this is happening, we heard that is happening, and I've been able to work with the police to determine what's true and what's not. And for the most part, we've been able to say our communities are safe, no one is being held against their will. We did have one incident that you probably heard about, the gentleman from Manassas that was arrested, and that was completely on the federal government and nothing that had to do with our police department, because quite frankly, we know better than that. We know who needs law enforcement against them, and we know who are our good members of the community, whether they're documented or not. So we've definitely heard some concerns, but we've created kind of this communication system by where we've connected the groups with our local law enforcement, and where they know that they can call us to get information.
I think that's so important. You said two key things. You mentioned trust, and you mentioned actually you said three things. You mentioned trust, you mentioned education, and you said that we know who needs law enforcement and who the trusted members of our community are.
Absolutely.
And that's one thing I think it's so important that those among us that are immigrants, whether they are green card holders, whether they are visa holders, they are a part of our community.
Absolutely.
One thing that's been really frustrating for me, I mean, I'm a U.S. born citizen, but I have friends that have in different phases of their immigration status. I had a friend who he came here when he was 9. I posted about it on my Instagram page, but he came here when he was 9. I think he's like in his early 40s. In January, he was picked up from his home. He is a business owner, a property owner, an employee, a parent, and he was kept in ICE custody from the middle of January to the end of March. And now he is in another country. He's in the country where he was born. The good thing about his situation is that he had family and a network there. But one part that was frustrating for me, I just kept saying, but you didn't do anything wrong. This administration said that they were going to focus on violent criminals. Yes, and that has just not been the case. He also mentioned that there were within the facility where he was detained, there were people who was one gentleman who left Pakistan when he was 2, and they dropped him off there and just like make it happen. There's another gentleman he said that was from Trinidad. ICE dropped him off. Oh gosh, ICE dropped him off in Trinidad. And he didn't have anyone to pick him up, so he was in their jail until a family member could pick him up. It's just these tragic situations. So please make sure you don't go anywhere as we continue our conversation with Supervisor Franklin to talk more about the work that she's doing in the Woodbridge District for Prince William County. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you in 90 seconds.
Okay, so we drowned the fire, stirred it, drowned it again, and now just feel if it's cold.
Yeah.
Cool.
Smokey just gave me a bear hug.
I know. Already posted it.
got a creak in my neck, limp in my step, cramping in my muscles every time I try to flex. All of the ones get on. Very excited, all that I can do was remember you. You know I usually stay now, but if you throw me love, I'll throw you some more.
It's a big responsibility.
Oh, it's huge. I know, it's huge.
And the salary.
Oh my god, yes.
Right?
I mean, like, I was about to move in with my parents, and right before, yeah, so this saved me.
I really believe in you, you know?
Thank you. It's nice to hear that from someone.
These are cool. Did you, what did you...
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Thank you so much for joining us back here on the Inside Scoop. I'm Alpha Woolen, your host for this evening, and the last segment was so interesting. I lost track of time. We were talking about the current immigration crisis happening here in the U.S., and Supervisor Franklin, you were discussing how what the Board of Supervisors is doing to help mitigate some of the concerns that residents are having in your district. So you mentioned education, you mentioned also partnership with local law enforcement.
Yep. Yeah, it's so critically important, you know, because people are just scared, they're confused, they don't know who they're targeting, and they're coming to us, myself particularly, just to ask questions like, have you heard this? Have you seen that? And is it still true that the police are going to do A, B, and C? And so I've kind of been acting as a conduit between the community and our police department. And I'm glad to be playing that role because we need to make sure they don't see police as a detriment, and that our police actually wants to make sure that everyone feels safe and welcomed in our community.
Absolutely. One thing I think that perhaps folks might forget about is the small business component of our immigrant community. That's a bit of a segue, but small business development for Prince William County, how has the Board of Supervisors helped with that initiative?
Yeah, actually, one of the first initiatives also that I pushed forward was a small business grant program during COVID. So alongside the housing assistance program that I pushed for, I actually pushed to create a grant program to help small businesses basically remain open. We provided them with financial resources as well as PPE to make sure their employees were safe while they were at work. And so we're looking at expanding that program to something more permanent, or even turning it to maybe like a micro grant program of some sorts. So we've been very supportive of our small business community. Through this program, we were able to support numerous businesses up and down the Route 1 corridor that I represent, which a lot of them are minority-owned businesses, a lot of Latino businesses. We have a lot of African restaurants as well. And so just making sure that the resources are actually going to the businesses that certainly need it. So we are doing our part in supporting our small business community.
You'll have some people that say that the funds that were spent during COVID to help small businesses, especially minority-owned businesses, they were a waste. But it looks like that you all have the numbers to prove it actually was not.
Yeah, I mean, you know, obviously you can't save every business, but we were able to partner with a number of small businesses to make sure they have the resources they needed. And from that process, we actually found new businesses, and we actually were able to to identify other businesses that may have been in the community for a long time that the government just didn't have a relationship with. And so not only did we introduce ourselves through this program, but we've developed a relationship with them to say, hey, just so you know, in economic development, we have this mentorship program. We have technical assistance program. We have all these things that you may not have known that we had that you guys should take a look at. So we really want to be a resource to that community to let them know, hey, we're here to help however we can.
So we can't talk about we can't talk about small business development in Prince William County without talking about Route 1 revitalization. That's such a huge buzzword.
Yeah.
I've been in Prince William County, oh my gosh, I lived in Prince William County maybe 15 years. I'm telling my age, but that's okay. But I remember when Princeton, none of that stuff was on Route 1.
Yeah.
So can you talk a bit about, while you've been on the board, some of the things that you've been able to accomplish to help the revitalization of Route 1?
Yeah, definitely. When I got on the board 5 years ago, Route 1 was in a pretty desolate place. They were looking to widen the road, which had taken up a few businesses, and so you had what I call a lot of dead zones, where there just was nothing happening. So when I came on board, a lot of developers came to me with various ideas. A lot of them wanted to do housing, and even though I'm a big proponent of affordable housing, I also told them we can't just do housing. I need commercial for my residents. We want to transform this from a bedroom community to really a vibrant community, and so now we're creating a town center that we're hoping to get off the ground very soon in North Woodbridge. It's going to have a pedestrian bridge going over to the VRE. We are creating elementary school. That's one of the first phone calls I got from my school board member saying, hey, we need an elementary school. Can you help us find some land? We got with Stanley Martin and we found a spot. And even in that same area, we had a 7-Eleven that was really, really problematic. Several murders, people doing drugs back there, all types of problems. We came in, worked with social services, we worked with the police department, and we completely cleaned it up. And now we have almost zero service calls from that 7-Eleven, and that's exactly where the school is going, right behind it. And so now we're also creating a safe place for our students. And across from that, we're actually tearing down a gas station and rebuilding it. And I like to say that because people think, oh, it's a gas station, why does it matter? But I'm like, no, how things look matter, particularly when you're revitalizing, and we can't wait for it to be torn down and to be rebuilt because it's going to be nice. It's going to be something new, a new design for the community. And we tore down Jefferson Plaza, and we're doing 100% affordable housing there. Featherstone, we just voted on that, where that's going to be residential and some updated commercial with the Starbucks.
Featherstone Elementary School?
Featherstone Plaza.
Oh, Featherstone Plaza, okay.
Not far from Featherstone Elementary. And you can just keep going south and seeing what we're doing. We got a new Dunkin' coming, and I've gotten some calls to do some auto uses, and I've told those developers I don't really want to do any new auto uses. I want to bring retail and commercial to the Route 1 corridor because I think that's what my residents deserve. So we are doing a number of things. We have a car wash that I initially said no to. I said the only way I will approve this car wash is if you bring a retail option with it. So they came back. We said, okay, we'll do casual dining next door to it. I said, well, then I'll approve your car wash. And so, it's pushing developers to be creative in your community to give residents what they want. So I'm very, very excited about the Route 1 corridor revitalization.
Gosh, hearing you talk about the different areas on Route 1, it just brought me back to nostalgia. Yeah. That 7-Eleven, was that the one right across from
yes.
School? I know that 7-Eleven.
Yes.
It's so interesting. I was going to go visit my mom, and I was just like, man, that looks different. It's not as busy, not as sketchy.
No.
So,
we completely
wow.
cleaned it up. And if I may say, when we had the first murder there when I got on the board, obviously that's very uncomfortable.
Sure.
Then the second, I'm like, okay, guys, we need to pay close attention. By the third one, I had called a meeting and I said, what are we going to do to clean the 7-Eleven up? I don't care if it's a private entity or not. It's creating a public nuisance. And so we contacted management. Quite frankly, the state revoked their liquor license. We put 2 police officers there 24/7 for a year. We also, our chair at the time, Ann Wheeler, she had the idea of trimming the trees so that people would have less privacy to do drugs. And we also put up a gate. We had the school system put up a gate behind there on their property, and we also fast-tracked the permits for the schools so that they can hurry up and start developing so that we could clean up that area. And from there, I remember a police officer reaching out to me and saying, this is the safest 7-Eleven now in Northern Virginia because of all the work that we've done. So we're very proud of it, and again, almost 0 service calls now to that 7-Eleven.
That's so interesting, just to bring things full circle. So I remember when that particular area was pretty dangerous. Like I said, I grew up in Prince William County. I see the difference now with that 7-Eleven. I see the difference in Morumsco Plaza. That's not very far from Fredlin Middle School. There's a Catholic church not very far from there. My grandmother, when I was younger, my grandmother raised me. She would go there and get help, get financial help from that Catholic church. So just to see the work that you're doing in the area where I grew up in, thank you.
Wow, well, thank you. I mean, and thank you really to our residents who have been patient with us to really clean up that area. I mean, you know, we all want a safe community, and I think now we have it.
Oh my gosh. Wow, what a full circle moment.
I love that.
Yes. Okay, so workforce development. I know that's another one of your initiatives. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. And that looks a number of different ways. One of the things that I proposed when I got on the board was starting a summer youth program, but I wanted it to be different than just getting your lifeguard position or, you know, your job, the traditional high school jobs that our kids get. You know, I want them to get some real world like office experience, working in our county government. I wanted to partner with small businesses to get some interns into some of the businesses, and what we've turned that into is a internship program for for our county government. So we bring in some youth to get that experience, but also in terms of adults, we're also focused on workforce development in terms of in our high schools. We have STEM programs. We make it known that the university track doesn't have to be the only track, and so technical skills and making sure that we have a strong workforce that can come back and actually basically buy into our local economy. And we're also working with other businesses and companies to come to Prince William and hire locally. So workforce development is incredibly important. And even from our county services, you know, we need people who have certain skills to work at our landfill. It doesn't sound like a very attractive job, but we have attractive pay. We need more bus drivers for schools. We need more individuals working in our permitting department. And so again, you know, we say to the feds, if you don't want all this talent out here, we'll take them and retrain them to do the work that we need to do. So workforce development is incredibly important.
Absolutely. Another full circle moment. My first job was with ACTS.
Oh, yeah.
Action in the Community
Absolutely.
Through Service.
And they're still working strong.
They are. I think so. The first, again, telling my age, the first director was Sally Witherell.
Okay.
She was there when I was there. I was like 13. But anyway.
Yeah.
So it works.
Yeah, and ACTS and other organizations have been so helpful actually with the government, because sometimes we can't solve every problem that comes to us, and so we rely on our partners like ACTS and some of our food servicing nonprofits, and that's how we service our communities.
Absolutely. Gosh, what a full circle moment.
Yeah.
You know, if it weren't for people like you who saw a problem and then decided to do something about it, who knows if I would be here on Inside Scoop giving our audience this wonderful information.
Absolutely.
So as we come back in 2 minutes, we will close out our conversation with Supervisor Franklin to describe more of what she's doing for Prince William County. So don't go anywhere. We'll see you in 2 minutes.
Old man Hennessy's window.
Correction, dude.
You broke. I just threw the ball.
This is really bad. What are we gonna do?
We?
Go to the door, ask for the ball back. Are you serious? It's my ball, Myrtlebeck. You're so dead.
I'd run away.
Yeah, to Uruguay. Kiss your life goodbye. Sorry.
Let's go.
Yeah, you never mean you're well. Nice one. Some friends you are.
Keep smiling, keep shining.
Hi. Tell him it was an accident. And we can fix the window. Come on. I'll come with you.
Loyalty. Pass it on.
You go first.
A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
One day these rats were playing in the woods. Well, it's a matches and that's no good. Listen to smoke before you give it a try. Only you. Don't play with matches. Don't play with fire. Cause there's nothing very funny about a rooftop fight. Nothing very nice on a homeless mind. So if a gorgeous force is what you desire, don't play with matches. Don't play with fire.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Fire.
Awkward. I'm the awkward silence. You try to avoid me, then there I am again.
But an awkward silence can be a great thing.
Like Kelly here is about to demonstrate.
You haven't really been yourself lately. Are you okay?
Find out how you can help a friend with their mental health at seizetheawkward.org.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Thank you so much for joining us back here on the Inside Scoop as we continue and finish up our conversation with Supervisor Franklin. I really enjoyed these full circle moments we've had in our conversation.
Absolutely.
That just goes to show when you invest in your community. I've said several times on this show before about being raised by my grandmother and the struggles that we had. I was surrounded by love, so I didn't, it wasn't, tumultuous, but my first job was with Axe. I went to Potomac High School my freshman year.
Potomac, yep, love Potomac.
I moved. But then now I'm able to come back and give back just through a series of investments in people like me.
Absolutely.
So can you, just, when we close out, just the importance of why you do what you do and your relationship with your constituents, why it's so important to you?
Yeah, why do I do what I do? I do it because it's necessary. It's necessary. I saw a problem, and then when I got into office, I saw a number of other problems that I didn't even know existed. And I like to be proactive, and I'm very sensitive about my district. I'm very sensitive about my community. I want to make sure that we have the same things that other districts have. And I tell developers that, like, come with the same building materials, come with the same standards you're going to use for more wealthier communities. And so I do it because it's important, and I care about my residents. One thing I realized when I came into office is that I started relationships with different types of groups that just didn't know what a board of supervisors was, didn't know, what we did. And, I would show up to the football games like, hey, I do this and I want to help support. We just honored Freedom's girls basketball team for getting Coach of the Year and Player of the Year. I just showed up and said, we want to help out. Potomac, we've been invited to help out and showcase their culinary program. I mean, those are entities that, besides the school board, they never interacted with their boards of supervisors. Wow. We go to the D9 organizations. We go to the HOAs a little bit more. The Woodbridge Civic Association, we help to rebrand that, and we'll talk a little bit more about this at a different time, but they want to change the name of Woodbridge to Goodbridge, and I think that's a wonderful, wonderful idea, because we're going to change the perception of Woodbridge. And so it was just really looking at the deep pockets of the district and finding out who hasn't been touched? Who hasn't heard from their electeds? Let's go and talk to them. When I was knocking on doors the first time, there was a lady off of Bel Air, and she said, no one has knocked on my door since Tim Kaine was first ran for governor, I think. Wow. And that was a while back. And I said, well, I'm hitting every pocket. And now when I meet people, they say, oh yeah, I know you knocked on my door, and you did this or you did that. And that's what I want to be known for, like being in the community.
So let's be a bit transparent here. Yeah. So as you mentioned before, Prince William County is very diverse. Yeah. And while we were talking during the break, my mom and my grandmother are your constituents, so you know the areas I speak of. Yeah. How would you encourage those that are very skeptical about getting involved in civic engagement in the political process? How would you engage them, or how would you encourage them to get engaged?
Yeah, I think first of all, we as elected officials have to do our part in making constituents comfortable, right? We have to be accessible, right? We have to go physically knock on those doors. And we can't just do it every 4 years. We have to have those town halls and invite the community out. Our social media presence, but even to our aging community, we got to call them. We got to go knock on their doors. We have to let them know. One thing that is a tradition that I kept going in my district was quarterly we would send out mailed newsletters of what we were doing, because not everyone gets the e-newsletter, or not everyone is going to the website, but every resident in my district, all 70,000, quarterly will get a real newsletter in their mail with several pages of what your supervisor has been doing. So we have to figure out how to reach people, and we have to let them know, call our office, and they do. And they email us, and we have to let them know, come to our board meetings, tell us what's going on. I get calls from everything as serious as I need housing assistance to small things like I saw trash on the side of the road and I want it cleaned up, and that's important to me too. I mean, you can call our neighborhood services department, and I think they probably get more phone calls from my office about trash than any other supervisor, because again, I'm trying to revitalize the corridor, and when you drive down Route 1, I want you to be proud of it. I want it to look nice, and I want people to know that this is a community they can be proud of. If I can just say one more thing, even about developers, they come to me about all these plans, I'm like, okay, whatever, but I always say to them, the colors of your projects matter, the type of materials, whether it's brick, siding, that all matters to me. It may sound superficial to you, like that's the least of your problems, but for me that's very important, because when people drive down the street and see these housing communities, I want them to say, that looks nice, I like that, and I want it to be the same standard as other communities. So I tell them, that may sound small to you, but it's very important to me.
Absolutely. What would you say, how would you, if someone said, okay, I really appreciate that everything that Supervisor Franklin shared, how can I get in contact with her?
Oh, absolutely, yes. So my website, Woodbridge District Supervisor. Also have my campaign website, Margaret for Woodbridge. We're also on social media, on Instagram and Facebook. I get constituent notes on Facebook, Instagram, everywhere. My email is mfranklin@pwcgov.org. And my office is located at Neabsco Flats, across from the Hilton, across from Freedom High School, next to the Tropical Smoothie. So if you know where that is, come by and visit us. We're open every day 9 to 5, but you can find me pretty much anywhere.
One thing I think it's really important for people to understand, and maybe we even take for granted, is the layers that we have within our democracy. We have the federal elections, which of course every 4 years, and then we elect our senators, and we also elect our representatives in the House. But one thing that's interesting about Virginia, which I think only 3 other states have this, is we have elections every single year. And so this year in Virginia, we are electing our governor, lieutenant governor, and our attorney general. Can you talk a bit about making sure that people get involved in this election cycle as well?
Yeah, I mean, if you live here, particularly in Northern Virginia, you see what's going on the national level. You've probably been impacted by it or know someone who has been impacted. So that alone should tell people why this election is going to be important. They say, you know, with Virginia having elections every year, we're kind of the first state to kind of show the rest of the country which way our residents are voting. And so we are leaders when it comes to electoral politics. And so our gubernatorial race is going to be incredibly important. Again, with what's going on at the federal level, I think that means the state and localities are going to have to step up a lot more. So that means our governor is going to be much more important, probably more than ever. Our attorney general, we see what's going on nationally with our court system and them having to bite back on what Trump is doing. So our attorney general is going to be important, issuing legal opinions on a lot of things, including immigration. And then, of course, our lieutenant governor is going to be important, making sure that the governor has the support and that the General Assembly has the support that they need. And, of course, those races are up, and that's going to be important, too. So I'm going to play my part as an elected official in letting people know to get out and vote. I'll be knocking on doors for Abigail Spanberger and for those members of the General Assembly. And I'll be knocking on my residents' door saying, hey, I'm not on the ballot, but I need you to go and vote for these individuals because we have a lot at stake. We say it every year, but if it ain't important this year and if it's not the truth, then I don't know when is.
You can say that again.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much. I say this every interview, but I really enjoyed this interview.
So did I.
Good. Thank you so much for coming out. So this is my favorite part of the show, where we give viewers an opportunity to get to know you. We've talked about some pretty heavy things, affordable housing and the immigration crisis going on right now, but now folks get to know you and me. I'll share a little bit too. Yeah. So I'm going to ask you just some questions. Feel free to give a bit of an anecdote with each answer. Okay, so Olivia Pope, or Annalise Keating?
Oh wow. Okay, these are the tough questions.
They are tough.
All right, I'm going to say Olivia Pope because whereas I don't see politicians killing each other and having to bring out an Olivia to solve it, I do see a lot of behind the scenes politicking and strategizing. So I appreciate the way, at least on TV, she does her business.
Same. I'm Annalise Keating. I love her cunning brain.
Yes, of course.
Yes, but Olivia, she is just on it. She's always 10 steps ahead.
That's right.
And then I have a special place in my heart for Papa Pope.
Yeah, there we go. There we go.
Okay, are you a page turner? Because you're an avid reader, right?
Yes.
Are you a page turner or do you prefer audiobooks?
Oh, page turner. Page turner.
Okay.
I think if I did audio, I would stop paying attention, but I like to sit down and I got to get involved.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So I like audiobooks, but I will, if I buy an audiobook from Audible, I will buy the book so that if something catches my attention, I can go and highlight it. So I have both.
That's smart. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, your fondest memory from 5th grade?
Actually, so my fondest memory is actually visiting Washington, D.C. for the first time and realizing that I actually like politics. Wow. I think from there I probably started watching CNN at 10?
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, so it was because of my 5th grade trip to Washington, D.C. I'm originally from Memphis, Tennessee, so that was a big trip.
Wow, interesting. So one of my fondest memories from 5th grade was I won Featherstone Elementary School. I won Artist of the Year for an oil, a chalk oil painting that I did. It was of a pot in my grandmother's window.
Yeah.
And I won Artist of the Year that year.
Now I have to bring that up now during my supervisor's time.
Please do. Please do. Okay, I think we have time for maybe one more. So what artists would people be surprised to see on your Spotify/Apple Music list?
Great question. I do like Jadena. And I think that's kind of Janelle Monáe. I don't know if that's a surprise, but yeah.
Okay. So for me, people would probably be surprised. Stelvio Cipriani. He's this Italian composer.
Okay.
I'm a hip hop head. I think you've guessed that. And I'm surprised that more of his music hasn't been sampled.
Yeah.
sampled by Nas easily.
Interesting.
Easily.
I love that.
Yes.
I love that.
Okay, we only have about 6 seconds left. Supervisor Franklin, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciated this.
Absolutely.
And we will see you next time on Inside Scoop.